Welcome everyone to a casted game of Age of Empires 4, and today spawned on the west side of the map playing in orange. We've got Core playing as the Holy Roman Empire, and his opponent in the southeast playing in green. We've got louemt playing as the Jushi's Legacy. Welcome everyone to Golden Pit, that is the map for today. And we've got the old versus the new. Jushi Legacy, obviously one of the new civilizations in Age of Empires 4 right now as part of the new Sultan's Ascent DLC. And we've got the Holy Roman Empire, an old boy, an old civilization, a great civilization. I think it's going to be an interesting matchup for sure because there's lots to talk about in this particular matchup. Jushi Legacy can be very greedy at times. They can also be pretty aggressive, to be fair. But on a map like Golden Pit, Jushi Legacy might go for a fast castle, try and mop up some of those relics. But when you think about it, so could the HRE. So we could potentially see the battle of the fast castle civilizations. Who could win it? Who can get there faster? Technically, I think Jushi Legacy possibly could, depending on where they place the meditation gardens. If it's in a really solid place, they could get there pretty fast. So it does depend on a little bit on map RNG, but we'll see how much he manages to get in terms of resources. Now the HRE, of course, are very good again to the castle age because of the prelate buffing up the gather speed of these villages by 40%. It makes a big deal to that economy. Now speaking of economy, whilst they do possibly think about going for the fast castle for relics, Jushi Legacy could also be very greedy in terms of economy, multiple town centres, especially in the mid to late game. And the reason why I feel that's actually a very viable for the Jushi Legacy against the HRE in particular is because it depends on the playstyle, but often HRE aren't all that aggressive in the early game. It's kind of the mid-late game, sort of mid-late castle age. And then when they get to that situation, they might even think about the Imperial Age to get the Palace of Swabia to be able to boost up their economy. Now, what that means is Jushi Legacy might not be under all that much pressure. It means they do have that breathing space to maybe get multiple town centers. 2 town centers could be maybe even 3 town centers with the Song Dynasty, making those town centers cheaper. Of course, the Song Dynasty for the Jushi Legacy, very different to the Chinese. The Song Dynasty for the Jushi Legacy makes the non-production buildings cheaper in terms of wood cost, and so that can fund multiple town centers pretty nicely. As you'd expect, it will be the Archon Chapel as the landmark there for Core, actually on the stone. So possibly a second town center, could be, you never know. I mean, it could just be saving that up for later. But it's an interesting position. It's actually a great Archon Chapel, I've got to say, because it's going to be influencing the wood, influencing the sheep there, and also the gold, and there's obviously the stone as well. So there's that meditation gardens. It kind of placed it a little bit further forward and then decided, no, let's go a bit further back. It's going to be getting the food, 2 stone veins and wood. So that food will certainly be helpful for that castle age if he decides to go there quickly. Now sometimes on some map generations, some spawns, if you have your food and gold on the same side, that could leave the meditation gardens giving you a lot of resources. That's a lot of sheep being brought back by Jushi Legacy. That's definitely going to help him in the food count. In any case, hope you guys have been enjoying the casted content on the channel recently. Big thank you for everyone supporting on YouTube or Twitch, whichever one it is. Doesn't really matter. It's been absolutely fantastic, the viewership so far, and hopefully you guys have been enjoying the content. I've definitely been enjoying making the content, so at least that's something. And yeah, hopefully that'll be continuing for quite some time. Now with that tech up to the next stage, Core does have quite a decent number of villages on wood, which you'd expect, but I wouldn't say he has that many to think that maybe he's dropping a production building. He might be able to afford one pretty soon, but yeah, we can see the transition of villages onto wood, into gold really, and that's going to be that castle age he's going to be thinking about getting. No real doubt about that. Maybe thinking about dropping an outpost as well. It depends if he scouts out his opponent, right? Because if he spots the Jushi Legacy being a bit greedy themselves, then there won't necessarily be any reason to get an outpost. Interestingly enough, he actually went for a second scout there, Core, which is very unusual, as the HRE is possibly trying to get as many sheep as possible to help fund that fast castle, which makes a sense in many ways because you don't want to necessarily venture out to the exposed resources if you can help it, if you're going for a fast castle, although having that free food on the map, especially fast food coming in the form of the deer, can be really useful. Going to be getting that Jiangnang Tower. So there's that Song Dynasty coming in for louemt and possibly... well, I think it's going to be multiple town centers, really, because when you think about fast castle for the Jushi Legacy, one of the reasons why it's so strong is because of the Tang Dynasty. It actually gives you the tech up a lot cheaper. So as we see now, the tech up would actually technically be, well, quite significantly cheaper at the moment. It would have been 1,020 food and 510 gold. But now that he's activating the Song Dynasty, obviously that bonus would be going away, and so it's possibly going to be going for that town center play, especially when you've got this number of villagers on stone. definitely going to be that kind of play, and I quite like it because, sure, you can think about fast castle, maybe mop up some relics, but bear in mind, Jushi's Legacy's economy is probably going to be rocking off the charts pretty soon because the HRE tend to not be able to challenge this if he's going for a fast castle himself. It will take some time, sort of the 10-minute mark, 9-minute mark to get the castle age, or maybe even earlier, actually, to be fair, for the HRE. And that gives him a lot of breathing space here, louemt. Also playing that very condensed economy, so that economy will be safe. And so whilst he's being greedy, he's doing it in a very measured way. 2 scouts, though, going to be looking to put some pressure on the meditation gardeners just to deny as much resources coming in. Getting 48 stone, 16 wood, and 38 food. Now, this is actually a really nice play because he's got the stone coming in. So he might even think about another town centre passively with that stone. We'll have to see. In any case, if you guys have been watching on Twitch recently, I can see you guys in the chat already. Thank you for hopping in. And I hope you enjoy the content so far. And of course, we've got a good set of games today, I think, coming along. And if you're watching on YouTube, then maybe think about dropping a follow on to Twitch if you want to see casted games live. Of course, YouTube might be your thing, and that's absolutely fine. I'll be definitely uploading plenty of content on YouTube. Now, that villager count slowly, steadily rising. It's actually fascinating to think about because Core will he'll be aware of the situation, right? Especially with the double scout, he'll know what's happening. And he's going to go to the next stage of the Regnant's Cathedral, trying to get as many relics as possible. And I wonder whether louemt does decide to go for a 3rd town centre, which would be pretty greedy, but you might even think about a castle age behind this, trying to secure as many of the relics. Something we do sometimes see is players actually walling up the relics. That's always an option there for louemt, because he will be second to getting that castle age. So obviously, he'll have to wait. Going back over to gold. That is a lot of villagers on gold, so it's definitely going to think about getting that castle age pretty soon. At least with a strong economy behind it. That could pose some problems for Core if he doesn't get the lion's share of those relics. Oh, it's popping off in chat. Hope you guys are doing well. Thank you for hopping in. And yeah, we've got some great games coming up for you today. Thank you, Golden Rambo, for the subscription. That's absolutely generous of you. Thank you. There's that Regnant's Cathedral. So this is something that actually Jushi Legacy does have to be careful about, right? Because he's got to make sure that he doesn't let too many of those relics coming to the hands of the HRE, because then that does lead them to a really nice fast Imperial Age time if he decides to get there. It does seem like he's actually going to be investing in a bit of military, of course, getting a stable to get out to the map. Maybe looking to secure some of those relics. Going out to the board now, Jushi Legacy. So certainly looking to get that food income to supply that 2nd town centre. It's a little bit further away from the castle age than perhaps he would like. But he will be getting there in the next couple of minutes. And what's kind of fascinating about it, because obviously HRE, just getting that castle age, it's a lot of resources put into that, right? So he's definitely going to look to try and get some of the relics. But what that does allow him to do, whilst he's looking for those relics, louemt should be able to really scale that economy pretty safely. It's unlikely the HRE will do critical damage anytime soon. Holy smokes, thank you for the gifted sub there, Iron West. And also, Magic Fire, thank you. I do love this play for the walls though, because it's going to mean that whilst he has been greedy, he's going to try and limit any sort of damage that will be coming his way, which is actually incredibly important. He's got to make sure that this greed isn't punished. And what might be a problem for Core is that in order to try and catch up with the greed, because Core essentially has to make a decision. And I love the way that even being passive, Jushi Legacy are kind of dictating the terms of this fight, because Core's got a decision to make. He's either have to be aggressive now to try and do critical damage before the ego gets completely out of hand, which could be something that happens pretty soon. Or he decides on something else, which is to get to the Imperial Age and to try and scale his own economy. Bit of a wallow going off here. Oh, this could be tricky here for Jushi Legacy. He's got to get out of there. Oh, it's going to be close. He just about gets away with it. Calculated. louemt crossing that fine line. That was very, very close. Holy smokes. Thank you, Psych Red, for the gifted subs. 5 of them. Thank you. Very, very kind of you. But yeah, this is interesting because with the extra eco that Louis has, it looks like Core is actually going to go for a fast Imperial. Well, I say fast. Yeah, it's pretty fast to be fair. It's a pretty fast Imperial Age. And that's going to give him the Palace of Swabia, right? Going to be scaling that economy very, very nicely. Now, the thing is that the pendulum has almost swung the other way now. So Jushi Legacy he won't want to let that Palace of Swabia pay off too quickly. He's going to want to do damage himself, but he's in a good spot to do that. Like, he's got a lot of military coming out soon. And I think in the next 10-15 minutes, what we'll see is louemt and Jushi Legacy having a lot of banked up resources, being able to spam out these units, and Core's got to be able to defend for long enough to allow his Palace of Swabia to hold the lines. He's got to make sure that he keeps himself safe. He is doing that with the walls though, with palisades, which is definitely going to be helping him. Now, depending on the army composition, it's a lot of melee units, which will burn through those palisades pretty quickly. We do see a couple of those Shaolin monks heading out. 3 relics though inside those Regulus Cathedral bonus outposts. He's actually got a couple of outposts, of course, on the front. That'll be boosting up not only the damage output, but pretty much everything about the outpost. It's actually kind of crazy how much the relic does. Increases the armor, the damage, sight radius, and also the weapon range. But there are a couple of relics being brought back home for louemt. Core, though, still edging towards that Imperial Age. It'll take some time, but it's definitely going to be a welcome boost to his economy once he does. Also to consider the actual importance of the map. Gold is an issue. You do start off with a couple of spawns of gold, but it will run out pretty quickly. So you will actually have to make a way into the middle of the map to be able to make sure you secure this gold in the middle. Now the good thing is for Core is that obviously he's a little bit less reliant on that. With the Regulus Cathedral getting the gold in from the relics, that's going to make him a little less dependent on gold. But of course, it probably won't be enough to sustain a full Imperial Age high-scale fight. We'll see if it ends up doing that way in the game as it heads into the Palace of Swabia. Core will be looking to get the villager count a little bit more equalized. But a decent villager lead there for louemt. Thank you for the sub there, Criticals TV. I appreciate it. Now on to berries there on the east side. And making sure it gets that free food on the map. There is that third town centre, which is actually a really interesting play there. I love the play there by louemt because he's recognised his opponent's gone for the Palace of Swabia, right? Now, the thing about the Palace of Swabia, whilst it's a really good landmark to build up their economy, him only getting there now means that he's already a good few villages behind. It will take some time for him to catch up. It won't take that long because, of course, Palace of Swabia is a bit of a printer for villagers. But louemt will have a great economy, right? The thing to consider is whilst Core is playing catch-up, and he will get there pretty quickly to catch up with the Palace of Swabia, the next 10-15 minutes, louemt is going to have a significantly larger chunk of economy, and that's going to be building up that resource bank. And before you know it, I'm pretty sure louemt will be getting to that next stage as well. Considering, with the Song Dynasty, this is the real scary issue. The really scary issue about Jushi Legacy. It's the Song Dynasty and their farming transition. You can look away for a couple of seconds, maybe a minute, and then you look back, and then this is happening. 3 granaries and plenty of those beautiful farms. That food economy is going to be rocking and rolling for Jushi Legacy in no time. And especially at a time where the resources on the map, the berries are being expired. There's a couple of deer, though, to be fair, that he could rely on, but he's not waiting for that. He's going to make sure that he's getting a good, smooth transition onto the farms. And you can already see, look at that, 800 food per minute versus the 240 resources of food coming in for Core. Bear in mind, Core will have a great farming transition himself, especially when you factor in the bonus, the 40% bonus of the Arca Chapel and the Prelate. The question is, he's got to be able to get there. There are units there, infantry units to be fair for Jushi, so I'm not sure how much damage you'll be able to do. Maybe a bit of harassment, because you have to consider the HRE. Now that they're Imperial Age, they do get those cannon outposts, which are absolutely devastating. If there's a civilization that can infuriate you a lot in the Imperial Age, it's got to be the HRE, because you know, as the Jushi Legacy or any other civilizations up against an Imperial Age HRE, if you're still in the Castle Age, you know that they're printing villages, for one, but number two, it's incredibly hard to push them, unless you've got siege or cavalry units, maybe at a push, because of those cannon outposts. Now, we do see players like BTQT do this all the time. I think BTQT is probably one of the solid players at doing this, and it's so hard to stop. So one thing that's good for the Core is the defense should be strong, but factor in it needs to be, because whilst he does have the Palace of Swabia, louemt does have 3 town centres, which is definitely going to be very strong. Lash, thank you for the raid. I appreciate it. Hope you had a good stream, dude. Thank you. Very kind of you. And Zathras, as always, thank you for the bits. Comes in every day almost, Zathras, with bits. It's incredible. Thank you so much. Getting the 2 sacred sites as well, which certainly helps that gold income with the extra 2 relics, and Well, it means that the Renks Cathedral is a little bit less scary at this point, especially when you've got 2 sacred sites. Activating that sacred site timer, giving him a problem core, because now that he can't just stay at home, he can't just focus on defending, which is something he probably would love to do. I love this little detail that Core's done. A lot of maybe mid-tier players wouldn't actually cap the sacred sites, but it's actually really important. It's a big deal. Not only is he gathering gold, which is actually important, but I think the big thing about capturing the sacred sites is that means that Core can't just think about booming away, which he has to do to keep up with the economy. Take a look at the food count. Almost 2k food, 2,000 food coming in from these farms. Only 1,000 coming from Core. And that is literally double, and it will take some time for Core to catch up. The problem for Core is whilst he catches up, louemt is going to be building a large bank of resources. He's going to be getting to the Imperial Age soon, I would have thought. Well, there you are. It's the Jushi's library. He's getting there pretty quickly. And once he does, that economy will be fueling a lot of units. It will be a massive flood. And it's got to be all about Core having to defend. The biggest problem out of all of that is whilst he might be able to defend, somehow he's got to break away and he's got to get to the sacred sites. There is that Imperial Age now for Louis. It means now he can focus on pumping absolutely everything into the mid-map objectives, protect those sacred sites, maybe even look to do further damage than that. One thing to consider as well with the Golden Pit, the mid-map is super important. Louis is going to have control. More importantly, not only does he have the sacred site forcing Core to think about jumping out, Core might just run out of gold pretty soon. It's got about 1 tile of 4,000 gold left, but once that goes off, once that gets all taken out, it's going to be very, very challenging from there. Speaking of challenging, one challenge that Core is going to have is finding an army composition to deal with this. A mass siege could work pretty well, but he's got to find a way to deal with the palace guards. So maybe crossbows and siege mangonels could be an option for him. Heavily armoured units is a little bit tricky with the HRE. It's very telegraphed in many ways. I mean, it's quite common for HRE to do that, whether it be man-at-arms or the Nightline, and so louemt is prepared with those crossbows. I love these stone walls on the right side though, because what this does is it allows that farming transition to be very safe and secure. The heart of the Jushi legacy economy right here, behind palisades, behind stone walls. Louis just making sure that Core can't get the damage he needs. I'm pretty surprised to see Core not challenging those sacred sites, because now's probably the best time. I think the earlier the better that Core can try and deny that. It's going to be the key. Even with the Palace of Swabia, these 3 town centers for louemt, making sure those villager count is looking rock solid. Look at the resources. We talked about it 10 minutes ago, or maybe 8 minutes ago, about how this could happen. The bank of resources for Louis is looking absolutely scary now. As long as he doesn't make an absolute blunder in terms of army composition, Louis could probably lose his army about 2-3 times over, and he'll still be ahead in terms of the banked resources. There's quite a lot of elite man-at-arms though, and Landsknechte as well, and if there's a unit that can change fights quickly, it is the HRE Landsknechte. We'll see if he manages to use them effectively. I'd have to get as close as he possibly could though, because there's a lot of crossbows there. There is that farming transition that Core's looking to hope and achieve. But again, it feels like the catch-up time is just a little bit delayed. It's not as quick as he would have wanted. And I think a lot of this comes down to that 3rd town centre, right? It'd be very common to just stay on 2 town centres. But I think that's actually unlocked a lot of potential there for Louis. He's made sure that he's kept ahead in that economy. And to be fair, 20 minutes into the game, even having the Palace of Swabia, at least for the last 5-6 minutes, more than that probably actually by now, probably about 8 minutes, Core has not been able to catch up in that economy. Now, there is a position where actually, if they do equalise in villager count for a significant period of time, the HRE economy is incredibly scary, especially because of the prelate boosting out the 40% gather rate. But this is definitely looking scary. There's a lot of villagers there on gold. Core not reacting quick enough. He does now, but he will definitely lose a couple. Decides to deposit some of the gold first, and I don't blame him, because that gold being under pressure, he doesn't really have that much gold income coming in. Apart from the relics, going to be fighting underneath the 2 cannon outpost, which is not necessarily a bad idea. I mean, it may sound terrible, but factor in Louis' resources bank. 5,000 food, 500 gold. It means he can lose his army and replace it in a heartbeat. Oh, that was trying to get a keep up in the middle. You can see Core desperate for gold, but he's not going to be able to secure it here, and I love this keep for Louis. It's pretty far forward, which is exactly what you want, and it will deny that gold that Core was trying to get. Looking a bit rough now. Core is going to try and get a couple of villager kills here around the back. If the Landskaneshta do get through onto a wood line, onto a villager line, that could be terrible, but he's got to get there first. Speaking of getting to the villager line, the Imperial Guards are out for Jushi Legacy, one of the strongest units in the game, and they're going to dive right on top of the villagers. And I don't think he even worries about the army. He's probably going to do as much eco damage as possible. Now, bear in mind, actually generally against the HRE, eco damage and raiding isn't usually like a strong win condition because they do have the Palace of Swabia, but factor in, it's not as if Louis has played this in a situation where he's being super aggressive and not ecoing himself. The fact that he's got 3 town centers really factors into this fight. He's got to be careful about this fight though, because there's a lot of Landsknechte there. The Imperial Guards probably take the fight, they probably should win this, but the Landsknechte and those man-at-arms should get some decent value. Ultimately, the defender's advantage going to be coming in clutch there for louemt. On the west side of things, there's a lot of villagers having to move away from what they were doing, having to move away from working because of the Palace, the Imperial Guards rather. Imperial Guards, a show-stopping unit, and factor in they're not cheap, but ultimately with 3 town centers, of having such a strong economy for such a long time there, Louis, it meant that, well, he's been able to afford this. He did decap the Sacred Site in the south though, which is a good move for Core, is a necessary move. It was a crucial move. louemt didn't manage to deny that. Now, they keep going forward. Core is starting to get a little bit of semblance of control back. We're getting to that moment where maybe the Palace of Swabia is starting to save him a little bit. We're looking to take down that keep in the middle and try and get a foothold in the game. Now, 26 villagers having been killed, that is actually a really decent number there for Jushi Legacy, especially with Core having been walled up for so long and having the cannon emplacements in the outpost. Of course, though, it won't take long for Core to build that up again with the Palace of Swabia, but just that food bank that louemt has, that is looking scary. Speaking of walls, well, he's going to be putting a couple of walls there on the front lines just to make sure if he is pushed back Core that he won't just instantly collapse. It's always a bit of a concern. Oh, there's a lot of Imperial Guards. They're going to be riding in, and again, like, he's going to do as much damage as he possibly can. As long as louemt takes some favourable trades, there are spearmen there, which is not ideal to go up against the Imperial Guards. But take a look at this: 408 HP, 29 sword melee damage. It almost doesn't matter, even though they're going up as their counter unit. I think if you go up against Jushi Legacy, getting to the late game and Imperial Guards, it's a little bit tricky to deal with, especially with the mobility. They can always move away from the fights they don't want to take. In the middle of the Golden Pit, there's the Imperial Guards going on those villagers again, and ultimately Core, whilst he does have a bit of a bank of gold, these villagers being idle, they keep having to house all those villagers, means they can't gather gold easily. And that's going to be difficult to keep up this production of man-at-arms, which he does have a lot of. And he might be looking to move back into the middle. He needs to secure that gold as much as possible. But down to 95 villagers once again, and even the Palace of Swabia is not letting him keep up. Stonewall's probably the right option here. He needs to stop the flood of those Imperial Guards as much as possible. He's not been able to do too much eco damage to the Jushi Legacy, which is part of the problem as well. Here come the Stonewalls. Possibly needed to get them a little bit earlier, but with hindsight is a magical thing. Heading to almost the 25th minute of the game and looking to now to get that Temple of the Sun landmark. Jushi Legacy looking to be in control, but there is still a way back if the HRE can stall this game out for a little bit longer. If he can make sure that his economy starts to catch up a little bit more, he might be fine. But the first step to doing that is stopping the raids, which he looks to be addressing with those stone walls. And certainly with this number of relics in the Phoenix Cathedral, will certainly be helping that gold income. But he's got to make sure, at this point in the game, he starts to get a bigger control of the middle of the map. Going to get a town centre, which I absolutely love. Obviously, he's going to be getting the benefit of the emergency repairs, which he's going to need really quickly. Will he get it in time? I think he possibly will. There is a bombard, although the Imperial Guards might start taking care of that. Look at the Shaolin monks coming out. Now, these are a beautiful unit for Jushi Legacy. They're actually pretty strong in their own right of fighting, and they heal themselves as well. Well, emergency repairs does come in time, but he's got to make sure he tries to deal with that bombard. He can't afford to let that bombard just keep firing away. Stone walls coming up for louemt as well. Playing a little bit cautious and it's understandable. If he does lose a fight in the middle, it could be problematic. Does activate the Sacred Site timer once again. The second time in the game, and might want to actually get some walls here or maybe a keep. Doesn't have any stone to do so yet. But he will want to try and utilize that as a possible win condition. Going to be diving in, maybe look to snipe out the villagers if he can. Does he have an emergency repairs? It's still on cooldown. That's not going to... Oh, I don't think that's going to survive. He's going to take the engagement. There's a lot of spearmen, a lot of man-at-arms. Now, if the keep goes down, that means he's going to be super exposed. Those villagers are going to be coming in next under fire. Does have a keep foundation. I thought it was a keep for a second, but it isn't. The Bombard will take the keep. The Imperial Guard's just riding the Shaolin monks, stealing the show. I think the Shaolin monks are going to do great against those spearmen. The Landsconnector are a little bit of a problem, but if the Landsconnector numbers do go down, Imperial Guards should win that fight. The keep goes down. The Imperial Guards going on top of those villagers on gold. And now there it is, ladies and gentlemen. Without gold, Core can't do anything. The Shaolin monks stealing the show in the end, but the hard work was done by the Imperial Guards. The Jushi Legacy, they take the game on Golden Pit.